over for a second because I wanted to think about how I wanted to do it. Banette had Shady Move, Shadow Chant, and Tomb Hunt. This card I'm going to put into Tier 1 because it did make a splash at the World Championships in my hands, as well as... What is up, YouTube? Today, we're going to be looking at a little bit of a different video. Going to be doing something weird, something fun. It's Friday. Let's have a little bit of fun with it. I know we've been doing competitive decks every single day so far. We've been kind of getting into the groove of it. So let's rate every single Pokemon GX in honor of them leaving the format, shall we? Okay, YouTube, here's the tier list. We're looking at it. We've got our tiers. The goated tier, which I think is like the best, playables, insane cards, like from moment one when they were released. They were absolutely broken. Like, I think that's the tier they fall under. There's tier 1, 2. Rogue, where it's like, it could have been played. It wasn't bad, maybe a tech card, and then complete garbage because I don't know what it does. I also have the Cerebi.net card decks pulled up here so we can kind of reference and cross-reference what we have. And here are all the GX Pokemon listed here. So let's get into it. Starting with, I think this is White Kyurem. I'm just going to go Reshiram. I'm putting this right into trash because I legitimately do not know what the card does. Kingdra I'm putting into tier 2 because Kingdra by itself wasn't the strongest card, right? But Kingdra made, like, let's pull up Kingdra here, open a new tab. Kingdra by itself, using its Hydro Pump attack and Maelstrom GX, both put Archeostoise on the map. I think Kingdra is one of the biggest reasons that Archeostoise came back into the meta. So actually, I'm going to keep it at tier 2 though, because that's an expanded format and not really standard. So just for the expanded format, it did bring back this this deck, this archetype that had been, brought into the limelight in 2015, and I think that's really cool that we had an option like that. Is this Dragonite? I've never seen this Dragonite before. Let's pull up this Dragonite, I guess. It's right here. Thank you, I appreciate it. I have never seen this Dragonite before. That's going right into trash. And so next up is Altaria, which is also right here. It looks like they're going by set. That's very convenient, actually. It had Bright Tone and Sonic Edge. This card is actually a rogue card, I think, because it's not amazing by itself, but in Expanded Mewtwo, it did make a showing. I think Expanded Mewtwo would have continued to be strong, given everything, but obviously COVID happened and the season kind of shut down. But I think Mewtwo is a very strong expanded deck moving forward. Looks like Salamence is up next on the list. Let's open this bad boy up. Dragon Lift, no retreat cost. And Bright Flame. This card is doo-doo garbage. Trash. No questions asked. I'm not even thinking about that card. Then up next is White Kyurem. Shred, Raging Blade, Dragon Nova. Absolutely not. This card's complete garbage. And looks like the Shining Fates set is up next for us to look at with the GXs. So let's start with Pinster, I guess. I assume they just like lumped them into... I spelled Pinster wrong. Oops, nobody noticed. This card is probably one of the worst cards, not only to pull in this set, but also to play ever. So that's going right there. Now, this card, I'm gonna pull it up, but you guys need no introduction to Family Zard. You have needed no introduction to this card whatsoever. From the moment it was released, they put Mewtwo on the map, made it a tier S deck. One of the best decks. It immediately won 2 regionals right after winning 2 worlds. I cannot say enough about Charizard Gx. It is still one of the strongest cards right now. Even with VMAXs where GX attacks like 330 is the norm, or 340 is the norm HP wise, 300 still carries a lot of weight to end games. So that's an instant S tier in my mind. Starmie's up next. Now I think Starmie isn't the most strong by itself, but Starstream attaching the 2 energy cards and making that entire Water Mewtwo archetype by itself, I can put it in Rogue. I think tier 2 actually, just because it made an entire archetype by itself, and that kind of goes a long way, just in terms of like what that means. Like creating an entire archetype is really hard to do. I feel like some stuff got skipped, or they're like, or I guess some of the promos got like flopped around. That's fine. Whatever. Mewtwo. This card's pretty bad. I think this is complete doo-doo garbage. I remember there being an Onyx, but I actually don't remember what it does. So let's open it and see, and let's read Onyx together. This is a very interesting card. I'm going to go ahead and put that there. Yeah, very interesting card. Wigglytuff Gx. This card was one of the worst cards to pull. You were just sad when you pulled it, and also it's actually so bad. It's one of the last fairy type cards ever printed, and I can't believe it's complete garbage. Like, come on. You at least give us a good card to send out fairy types, right? Now, Mulch Zapdos Articuno, Trinity Burn is a hard attack to pull off, but Sky Legends GX kind of started splashing its way into decks towards the end of the season before COVID happened, and has been kind of prevalent and expanded a little bit, and has seen its fair share of play here and there. So I think it's definitely a Rogue card. I wouldn't put it any further than Rogue, because I think as soon as the secret was out, people really stopped playing it. Now, next up on the docket was Snorlax, I think I saw. Why did my mouse just scroll up instead? Not Eevee and Snorlax. Come on, bucko. We're going for OG Snorlax. Looks like promos are up next then. Okay. Now, this card was the first GX card ever printed. That's a fun fact for you guys if you didn't know that. Sam Chen was the first player in the United States, I guess globally, to use a GX attack on stream using Pulverize and Pancake at Dallas Regionals in the expanded format. All that being said, that's complete dog shit. Really a garbage card. I just don't understand why people even played that card. But I think Sam played it as a funny meme, basically. Lucario GX comes up next. This card is tier 1 for all intents and purposes. It's not goated because it wasn't like one of the best cards to ever exist, you know, that kind of thing. It was really made strong by the fact that Zoroark and Buzzwole both accompanied it. It is very strong and expanded. It was really strong in standard when it lasted. Zoroark Lucario was really, really strong. Lucario Lycanrock was a really strong deck that took me to a top 32 finish at a regional championships the weekend on release. There's not much to say. Cantankerous Beatdown was one of the most insane GX attacks to play around. It was really hard. It was really hard to play around Cantankerous Beatdown, especially in a deck that used Focus Sash so effectively like this did in Acerola. So yeah, it was just really hard to play around that. Yeah, Lunala and Solgaleo are these Lunala and Solgaleo? Yeah, those are Lunala and Solgaleo. Looks like they're right here. I have literally never seen this card in my life. I will not lie to you guys. I don't know what this card is. This is going straight to trash. Bye-bye. Solgaleo GX. Shining Mane, Turbo Strike Prominence. This is goated. This is one of the best cards, best promos ever printed. This gave Mewtwo so much credence to do what it wanted to do. This just one card gave an entire deck life. Like, Mewtwo just got so strong off the back of it. I cannot overstate how good this card was. Raikou. Very interesting. 4 energies for a GX. Wow, that's very, very interesting. I'm just going to go ahead and do that right there, and let's go to the next card. Zygarde. Vibration, Cellstorm, Liberation. Okay, so Zygarde I thought always had potential. Not this Zygarde in particular, but I felt like Zygarde in general could have been a decent card as an archetype, but it never kind of saw the limelight that not it deserved, but maybe just, yeah. Okay, let's go scroll down a little bit. I saw Thundurus and Tornadus, and I don't know what those cards are either. Dude, there's 244 Sun and Moon promos? That's a lot, man. God damn. This Thundurus I thought would be actually okay. I actually bought these Thundurus, I think, but it actually is not good at all. So we're going to go put this right here. Smackaroonie in the shitter. Now, Tornadus GX, Gust, Wind Fury. See, these attacks for 3 for 90 just were so much worse than all the other GX cards. And this GX attack isn't even, like, something that lets you control the whole game. The purpose of a lot of GX attacks is that you need to be able to, like, take a swing or, like, control the entire game. What is this card? Reshiram GX? Okay. Flame Charge, Surgical for Tube, Scorching Column, Vermilion. Now, this card was played, like... No, this card wasn't even played. This card sucked, man. Like, this card just sucked. I don't know why anyone would play this. Zekrom GX. I don't know about this card because I did a video with somebody who didn't ever release the video where I had to, like, randomly roll into a deck, and I rolled into Zekrom GX, and I tried to build a deck around this card, and it was one of the worst things I've ever done in my life. I was required to play 4 copies of Zekrom GX. Garbage. Absolute, utter dog shit. Okay. Looks like Lycanrock is next. Not the good Lycanrock. Not the Guardians Rising one. Not this one. Not this one. Is it this one? I guess we're like. I guess they're using the promo arts. No, this is the promo one. Never mind. There's so many Lycanrocks. Jesus Christ. Crunch. Accelerock, Lycanfang. This one was worse than the other ones, I think. Just strictly. So this is a trash one. Trash tier one. Now, what's coming up next is Wailord. Magikarp and Wailord tag team. This card is nuts. Wow, why is this? What? Hello? Hello? What? Why is this small? What? What? Okay, whatever. Magikarp and Wailord. Tier 1 card for sure. It definitely immediately made an impact in the format. I think that card was very strong off of what it did. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you. It was really good and expanded off the bat, and it had some play in Nagquack Standard. Flareon Gx. I think this card is tier 1. With Heat Stage, Bright Flame, and Power Burner, this became a deck all on its own. There was a Fire Mewtwo variant that came out of it. It became like an instant tech. I think this was a tier 1 card. No matter what people say. Now, the other evolutions of Vaporeon GX. This card was played by Peter Kika at the World Championships using Hydrating Drops. And a copy, like 4 copies of Vaporeon GX, playing a Vaporeon GX stall deck using cards like Switch Raft and other stuff to eventually just use Hydro Pump and like win the game slowly but surely. And I think he would have made it deep because the grass weakness was not relevant at the 2019 World Championships. But the fact that you could set up pretty accurately and just kind of play the game that you wanted to was really cool. So I think I would put this in a rogue deck tier. Because that card is just, it was just what it was. It was a rogue deck, but it was a really, really strong rogue deck and had more people like Peter kind of experimented with Vaporeon. I think there was potential there. Now, Jolteon GX with Electro Bullets, had Bolt Swift Run, one of the greatest cards to probably ever be printed. This card, in my opinion, made an instant splash from the moment it was released. Played in Zap Beasts, played in Pikarom, played on its own as well. Pedro Eugenio Torres ended up taking this to a SBE win. I also played the same 60 to finish top 32 at regionals that weekend. This card by itself also took me straight to a top 8 of an IC, and I don't care what people say. Jolteon was the MVP of my entire tournament run. Swift Run is an attack that is very, very difficult to play around when you can just wall off someone completely. Electro Bullet is really strong at just setting up early game. Peppering, especially with E-Power in the format and Head Bolt. So a standalone as well as in the format card is an S tier, GOAT tier. Amazing card. Just no ifs, ands, or buts for me. Let's use the EV art that they specified, which is this EV art. Ascension DNA. This card's kind of ass. I thought this card would be a lot better, but the evolutions by themselves, like the GXs, were all just strictly better. And having to not put this into play was just, like, yeah, you never needed to play that card. Is that Melmetal? Metal. Melmetal GX. I think this is the same one. Double check. I'll just use the promo art. Because I can't read this. Metal Coat. Our hard coat, this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. 4 colorless, Metal Blast, 110. This attack is 20 more for each. So it's basically like your water... Metal Keldeo basically with Iron Force. So I played this with Magzone. So I'm going to put it in Rogue. No. It's trash. No, it's Rogue. Because Xander ended up winning the Open with it. Aha. Checkmate Atheists. I'm going to put that in that tier. But overall the card was pretty bad. But I played Lady in the deck. That's all I needed to tell everyone. Cursed Body. If this Pokemon's active and damaged by an opponent's attack. This didn't matter. Firebone. So Lost Boomerang was actually a pretty decent attack in Expanded Mewtwo, but other than that, this card didn't really see that much potential. So I'm going to put it in Rogue tier because it was played in a deck. I think everything in the trash tier is like, has not seen play in a deck or would not see play in a deck. I guess we have to move Snorlax for that very reason. But like everything in here is like, would never, ever, 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 ever see the light of play in a deck kind of deal. Yeah, that's kind of how I put it. Kangaskhan is next. Split Spiral Punch, Enraged Strike, Familiar Combo. These attacks are all complete garbage. No wonder I've never seen this card in my life. I guess next up is the Detective Pikachu cards. Raging Destruction. I remember I saw this and I was just hoping that this was just like discard like Vanilla Fire, discard 8 off the top of your opponent's deck, and that would have been really funny. But these two attacks for 5 are so steep that Reshizard was always just better than this card, no matter how you slice it. Also, the art is absolutely terrifyingly disgusting. I would never play that card. Just based on the pure precedence of the art. Now, I thought this Mewtwo could also be okay because of Psychic Nova, but also 4 for 180 and a shield was never actually like good in terms of like what it provided. Okay, next up is Greninja GX. This one's going to need not that much requirement to talk about. Elusive Master was a really strong ability. Misslash, I think, is going to always put it into the goated tier. Not as a tech, but because it's a card that can shred through anything, and it was very splashable in Mewtwo decks and stuff like that. So this is going to be, it's probably not good. It's going to go into tier 1. Just because it's a tech that could swing the entirety of matchups and basically establish itself as a very, very strong card. Now it looks like here are the other promos. Gyarados Gx. This card was binder material. Not even binder material. I would probably leave it unsleeved. Raichu Gx with Thunderbolt, Spark Ball. Same thing. Absolute garbage. Okay. Porygon Zgx. I've actually never seen this card before. You may discard a card, heal 80, abnormal heating, 160, and you burn yourself, and then critical error. Search your deck for 10 cards and discard. Why would anyone want to do this? What is the purpose? Hello? Is Porygon okay? And oh, that's not how you spell it. What? Hello? Can I just not spell? Wait, why is it not on this list? Oh, okay. I don't know what my Google search is trying to give me here, or trying to sell me. But this card I'm going to have to pull up just because of what it is. Night Watch. Choose 2 cards, Shuffle Man, Pale Moon. This is probably one of the best cards now and will be until it gets rotated out. So that goes into Go tier 100%. I don't know why it's not on this list. Maybe whoever made this list is like really... Why is there so many Pikachu? Whoever made this list is really prejudiced against Trevenor. I've also never seen this card. This does not seem good. So we're going to go ahead and just put that into the trash tier. Alolan Sandslash is a card that I thought would actually be really strong. With Spiky Shield, Frost Breath, and Spiky Storm. I ended up picking up 4 copies of this card just because I thought it would be a 2 of playability and like Water Mewtwo or something like that. Just because I think Spiky Storm can kind of clean up the game in a bad situation. So I'm going to put this in a Rogue, even though it hasn't actually seen any play. But it's just kind of on the, that's just on the back, like the back half of the fact that we didn't have events for a while. Caracas Gx. This card is actually like absolutely new to me. High density armor. If this Pokemon does full 90 HP, takes 90 less damage from opponent's attacks. Ground Crush, can't retreat. Stone Age. This is kind of a cool GX attack, but the fact that it's on a stage 2 that you have to already like go through a fossil Pokemon to get to is a lot of a pain in the ass, so it becomes trash, unfortunately. Alright, next is a card that is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. Tappable Gx. Now, Tappable, I don't know why it's so small. Again, Horn Attack, Nature's Judgment, 120 plus 60, and Tapu Wilderness, 150. Just by the card art, just by everything, this goes straight into GOAT tier. Now, Tappable kind of terrorized the format while it existed. It was really, really strong. People regarded it as like the no-brain, like whatever deck. But and I also was one of those people that was like, I'm not going to play Bulu because there's no reason to play a deck where I don't have to think. But at the end of the day, it just won games because of how powerful it was by itself. Beware. Bear Hug, 3 energy, 80, can't retreat. 4 colors, 100, flip 2. Big throw. Big throw you into the trash can. Goodbye. Serena, I think? Yeah, it's Serena. That's how you spell it. Side Eye, switch on your opponent's bench will be active. Jumping Sidekick, Queen's Command. Queen's Command is kind of cute, but otherwise it's trash. There's Formosa, that's next. Fast Raid, go first, you can attack. Curl Spike, Beauty. I'm going to put this in Rogue, just because it's a decent card in the expanded format. And it was never like... I guess it wasn't like always like garbage by any means. It's like... It could have been played. Like, it could have been played in some capacity. Oh, why is this small? So I think Celesteela goes into tier 2 because this card was actually played in a couple of the lists that did well at EUIC that year. So I think this goes into a tier 2 list because this card did make a splash on immediate release. And on that token, Xurkitree is right here. Flashing Head, Rumbling Wires, Lightning. All of these attacks are really, really good, especially in expanded stall. So I'm putting this into tier 2 just because it was a archetype all on its own as well, just like it was with Celesteela. So even upon immediate release, it was like not bad per se. And Expanded Wailord really got a kick out of having that card and some other stuff. Entei GX, this card does not seem good whatsoever. I can't even read half the text, but I'm just putting it into trash. I'm not even thinking about you. Bye bye later. See you later. Adios. Raichu GX? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Full Burst, Super Absorption, Side Strike. So Side Strike is okay. And Full Burst was okay. I played this card. I played this card for a good bit, actually. It was actually really, really strong in Malamar. So it's going into tier 2. This card was like really, really, really strong. Alright, the next card is a card that requires no explanation, no introduction, nothing of the sort. Zoroark Gx. If there was a Zoroark Gx tier, it would go into Zoroark Gx tier. This card is one of the best cards ever to be ever printed in the Pokemon trading card game. With Trade, Ritus, Beating, Tricks are kind of fucking blue, but like Trade and Ritus, Beating combined with the two pieces together already made it one of the best splashable options as a draw plus attacker in almost every archetype, every deck. If you weren't playing Zoroark, you were playing Buzzwole, and that's literally how the entire format was dictated for a little bit, which was a little bit annoying, but yeah. Decidueye GX, these images are too small. I'm just going to pull it up like this. With Feather Arrow, Razor Leaf, Hollow Hunt. This is an S tier card by all intents and purposes. Decidueye stood on its own. With Vileplume, Decidueye stood on its own. With Ninetales as well. It was just an amazing card. All three of its things are really, really strong. Goes right into S tier. Was that a promo? Were we going back down promos? I think we are going back down promos. Okay. Lurantis, no, we're just in Sun and Moon. I actually just don't remember half the Sun and Moon cards. So Lurantis was a card that had a lot of hype coming out, but it immediately flopped, unfortunately. So this goes into, I think, but it was played, so it's going to go into a rogue tier, / like tier 2 tier. I think it's going to go into a tier 2 tier because like people did have hype around it. People did build Lurantis Bulu and cards like that, or like straight Lurantis with EVs. So it wasn't like the most slept on deck. Now this card, absolutely fucking trash. I don't know why, just even. Lapras GX, this card did not have any standalone presence, but it did win a Regionals in the hands of James Arnold, playing Collect, basically Lapras GX stall. It was really, really strong against Decidueye decks because you can do much into Lapras stall. Once they start shredding all your energies and like getting into a bad place you don't want to be in, and Blizzard Burn was a lot of damage that a lot of decks couldn't avoid. So this is an instant tier 2 deck. It was never a tier 1 like goated deck, but it was an amazing card. Primarina, this card I thought would be really good. I thought all of the stage 2 GX would be good, but I underestimated how much it takes to get a stage 2 out. And from then the game ultimately changed where stage 2s really had no place left in the meta. Now Espeon GX is probably one of the best cards ever printed as well. Just the fact that it comes from an EV is what makes it so strong. Because you could use Energy Evolution back in the Sun and Moon era. Psybeam, Psychic, Divide, all three were attacks that you could splash into any Psychic type deck. Mega Mewtwo played it pretty accurately. A lot of Gardevoir decks played it super well. Espeon Gardevoir became a deck that brought Xander Pro to prominence. He basically dominated the back half of the season with it, and then catapulted himself into a top 4 finish in his first year of Masters at Worlds. So shout out to Xander for basically being, I guess, the face of Espeon for a little bit. Alex Hill was the guy who made the list. The deck was insane. It was just a nutty deck. Anyone who's played in the 2017 format knows that the Espeon GX deck is one of the best decks by far, if not the best deck for that format. Hello, Lycanrock. I did not pick you. Go back to the trash can where you belong. Next up is Lunala, right? Yeah, Lunala. Now, I thought Lunala was also going to be very, very strong. But again, because it's a stage 2 and takes a lot of effort to set up, it became a trash tier card. Umbreon GX actually did have a little bit of potential with Strafe, Shadow Bolt, and Dark Call if you built a Dark type deck with the Energy Evolution. But the fact is, Energy Evolution / like Dark types were not very strong because your follow-up attackers was like Hoopa, I believe, back then. So you didn't really have any options. So this goes into a rogue tier, I believe, just because even though it wasn't like the strongest, it still had some potential as a card to be played. Solgaleo GX, absolutely insane card. I think Sunsteel Strike was really strong. I think Soul Burst was really good for a lot of decks. So this goes into a tier 2 deck, in my opinion, just because it's it gave life to a couple decks, and I think Solgaleo was a deck for a little bit. Solgaleo Metagross was a deck for a little bit, where Sunsteel Strike was really like your main attacker, using Ultra Road to keep switching out and doing a ton of damage. I think I'm talking way too fast. I should probably slow down a little bit. I kind of went Rap God there. Sorry, my bad, guys. I'm just getting excited because a lot of these cards were in the peak of my career. / like, I guess I haven't peaked yet because I haven't won anything. But a lot of these cards are like very reminiscent, very like nostalgic of these memories. Tauros GX is going to be a tier 1 card in my opinion, because upon release, a lot of people just included Tauros GX on the back half, or fact that Mad Bull Gx was just a splashable DCE GX attack like myself, Jimmy Pendarvis, and then their gang playing Yveltal, and some of the Mewtwo players who didn't play Espeon, all put it, so we just slotted a Tauros in because we said this card seems really strong. I don't really know what GX attacks do, but we get one every game, so let's just try to do something with it. And for a DCE, being able to use Horn Attack 60 and pepper in the damage that you needed was insanely strong, and Tauros was just like a very strong wall in that format. So I can't underestimate like how strong that was. There were so many GXs in Sun and Moon. Holy moly. Actually. We had our Gumshoes Donald Trump card. Search the premises. Once during your turn, you might have your opponent reveal their hand. If I remember correctly, this card was used only for Gumshoe Chance GX. 50 times the number of energy touch your opponent's active. I don't remember what matchup it was specifically used for. I think it was Ho-Oh Salazzle. I think Golisopod Garb played it for Ho-Oh Salazzle specifically. And I think it was the Lesage brothers that kind of made it popular. So it was a rogue tech. It wasn't amazing by its own or anything, but it was there. It did what it needed to do. So we're going into, man, we haven't hit Buzzwole yet, dude. Buzzwole is just like, man, what a tear. Buzzwole Formosa tag team, however, Jet Punch, Elegant Soul, Beast Game. This card did see play in a couple decks. It's seeing play currently in some of these tag team decks, so it's going to be a tier 1 card in my opinion, because I think from the moment it was released, this card had a lot of potential and has been basically making an impact, and that's how I look at tier 1, where like all these tier 1 cards from release have made some sort of an impact or another and have longevity as well as like splashability in decks, whereas tier 2 is like cards that are a little bit above rogue that have made more of an impact but not as much as tier 1 decks. And then goated cards are like, they're their own archetype, like they've literally like established an entire metagame around themselves, like they are the big daddy of their respective formats. Venomoth, why is this one small and the other one wasn't? So I don't really know what this one does. It's pretty ass. It looks like Shinobi Mastery. Let's just put that into trash. We're going to go there. I'm excited to get to the next card. This video is actually a lot of fun, actually. I hope you guys are watching this and enjoying this, or having as much fun as I am recording this. And let me know in the comments if you want me to do more of these kinds of ranked tier list kind of things. This is fun for me. I could also just do this on stream, to be honest. Reshiram and Charizard GX. Goated tier. From the day it was released to the day it dies, this card will be one of the most playable cards because it's probably one of the best welder targets in the game. Outrage is just an insane attack because it's 30 plus as opposed to most outrage attackers that are 10 plus. And it has 2 amazing dragons and like the art's beautiful. Like, come on, like what's not to love about it? Goated tier from the minute it was printed to the minute it'll die. Blastoise GX has the Rocket Splash Giant Geyser attack, Giant Giza. It's going to go into tier 2 along with Starmie, its compatriot, its partner, just because of what it is. Now, if you guys are mistaken or don't know what Dedenne GX is, you haven't been playing the Pokemon trading card game for the last couple years. Dedenne has been an instant add in every single deck, no matter... Hello, where did you go? There you are. No matter what format, what it is, Dedenne is a staple of the draw engines of almost every deck. There is no question in my mind that it is a GOAT tier. Muck and Muck GX. Now, this card is near and dear to my heart because it made a lot of splash in Mewtwo, but that's only because I played it, but nobody else did. So, as candidly honest as I can be, it goes into the rogue tier. It does not go into trash because it can still be played, but yeah. Marshadow and Machamp GX. Revenge, 100 Blows, Acme of Heroism. I'm not really, like, sure where this stands, to be fair. I'm not entirely sure where this stands, because of, like, how little it was played, / like, how little it saw any play. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into Rogue, I think, because it could have been played. I think all these tag teams could have been played in some capacity, so I'm a little bit, like, apprehensive about it. Greninja Zoroark is a card that did not do much in the standard format, and it might not until its rotation. It might now with Mewtwo Tag Team and Dark being a potential deck option coming up into the next format with Chilling Rain, but I think in the expanded format it immediately became a very strong card, and for that very reason, just because of expanded format, it's going into the tier 1 deck, like category. Honchkrow GX, a card that has plagued me throughout my entire consistency or career. Ruler of the Night, Featherstorm, Unfair. Not an amazing card, but it goes into Rogue tier just because it's of what it is. Fuck me. Right? Fuck me. Luke Metal. One of the few cards in the format that does defy a lot of the rules, the traditional rules of the game that we know, where we take 30 less damage for the remainder of the game. So that's just one of those things where, like, any card that defies the traditional rules of the game immediately goes into GOAT tier. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, it defied the traditional rules of the game, and it made us play in a very different way that we're not used to. And that's pretty much why that deck is insane. Gardevoir and Sylveon. Very, 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 very strong. This deck popped up at the World Championships, and it was under a lot of people's radar, including myself. And a lot of them stormed into day 2. And in day 2, some of them switched, some of them stayed, and they all had very big finishes. I think one finished 9th, and I think one finished 10th. One was an actual bubble, and one just actually, like, didn't make it. But this deck was insanely good. Only really lost, like, Turbo Fire. But it played a lot of, like, these charms and these cards that, like, really just prevented your opponents from playing the game. I wouldn't put it into GOATed because it has not lasted. It has not lasted the longevity, but it goes into the tier 1. The tier 1 deck for sure because of how strong it was. Now, Whimsicott GX with Fluffy Cotton was not a strong deck by any means, but it was a fun rogue deck that people considered to be okay. Now Persian's going to definitely be one of my tier 1 cards because even though it didn't see that much play and it wasn't like an amazing card. Using Catwalk Vengeance, these two abilities by themselves just put it into a tier 1 category of a deck because you could use it in tandem. I'm just going to turn off the music. It's getting way too loud and annoying. It got put into tandem with like with Zoroark, and it basically led players to do really well. It won an international championship in tandem with it, so I can't complain about, you know, the results it saw. Oh, this Celesteela. This was, I guess, in the set, right, huh? This is pretty bad. I'm just going to put that right into trash. I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now. Next up is Rowlet in Alolan Executor GX. Now, this card is something you guys might be seeing right now. It's not in the GOATed tier by any means, but it is a support card for the Grookey Rillaboom deck. It's very, very strong, so it's definitely going to be a... how do I do this? How do I... how do I go ahead and... Yeah, let's just put it into tier 1. Tier 1 for sure. This is a card that, like, from the moment it was released, has been... Not, like, from the moment, but it's been very strong as soon as Rillaboom came out. Burning Road, Active Stomp, Heatran. This is, I think... So, it's going to be a little bit controversial, but I'm going to be putting this into GOATed tier. And the reasoning for that is because Heatran has been one of the best cards since its release, and has been making fire decks really, really strong to have a backup option or a one-hit KO option that they normally otherwise wouldn't have. So a lot of the fire decks at Worlds did pilot a Heatran GX in their decks. And the ability Burning Road plus Hot Burn is just like an insane combination where it's like a one-turn setup. So while it could be a tier 1 card, I'm going to be putting it into the GOATed tier because I think just simply based on the credence that it has like decreed, it goes into that kind of a list, in my opinion. And again, this list is my opinion, so Slowpoke inside deck. Let's just put this Ditchin' Splash into the Ditchin' Dookie. You know what I'm saying? What's up? Bye-bye. Later. See you never. Keldeo GX. Tier 1 card, 100%. I think from the moment it was released, it was really, 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 really strong. Pure Heart, Sonic Edge, and Resolute Blade were all very amazingly strong. The reason it doesn't go into the GOATed tier is because it was eventually cards came out that could deal with it. And eventually it kind of petered off into the sunset. Actually, it's going to go into tier 2. Just because, like, it wasn't amazing towards the end of its lifetime, which is now. Raichu and Alolan Raichu. Yeah, let's look at the other cards in tier 1. Can I compare it to those? Yeah, I can compare it to those. I can go back into tier 1. Raichu and Alolan Raichu, this is going to be a tier 1 card for sure. It's not GOATed. It's been making an impact since the day it came into the format, but it's only been making an impact in Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team because it doesn't really have a place in any other deck. So tier 1 for sure. Now this next card should not need any introduction. Should not need any, like... Yeah, it's Mewtwo and Mu Gx. It's probably one of the best cards ever printed in the Pokemon trading card game. Perfection, having all these abilities and available to you. The fact that it's splashable in pretty much every deck, that's going instantly into the GOATed tier. Instantly to the GOATed tier. Now, next up is Espeon and Diaxis. I think Espeon and Diaxis is a tier 1 card because of how splashable it was into Malamar and stuff like that. But I think it's also very valid to put it into... It's just going to be a tier 1 card for me. It's not even going to question it. I'm not even going to question it. That just goes right into there. Latios GX. This card was really, really strong for when it was in format. Tag Purge and Clear Vision did make a lot of matchups really strong, and the fact that it was played in both Mewtwo and played in stall decks like Doll Stall, as well as Malamar, makes it, I think, a tier 1 card because a lot of strategy was predicated around that card specifically. Then you have Jirachi GX. It's just there pretty much for Psychic Zone. Star Search never really did anything, so this goes into tier 2, even though it was there for pretty much for the ability. Aerodactyl, this card was really cool upon release. I thought this card was going to be a lot better than it was, but because it goes through fossils and that mechanic is really strange, I'm going to put that into Rogue tier. Now here are unfortunate fallen brethren of the Dark Box variant that have not seen the success that they normally would have seen if, I guess, fighting wasn't as strong. I don't know. Dark Box kind of fell off incredibly strong. Umbreon and Darkrai, I'm still going to put this in the tier 1 bracket because of both the attacks are incredibly strong, and because of that, this card is going to be nuts. Now, its compatriot Mega Sableye and Tyranitar, however, is going to go into the tier 2 because even though Greedy Crush is really good and Gigafall is really, really strong, getting this established has been very difficult, especially with the Dark Box variants of late. This is going to go into a tier 2 category. Now, when you think about cards and decks, Weavile GX with Shadow Connection is probably the only reason the Dark Box deck works, so it has to go into tier 1, I think. I don't think you can argue that logic whatsoever. And then you have Mawile. Mawile also is going to go into tier 1 with Captivating Wink. Because basically this card made ADP really, really, really strong again. It kind of came back into prominence. Wily Bite, really insane attack, 2 energy attack that you need an ADP to kind of clean up the game, going back into tier 1. Now this is going to be a little bit controversial, but hear me out. Garchomp and Giratina GX with Linear Attack, Calamitous Slash did win regionals. It was performing really well towards the back half of the season. It won 2 regionals, actually, expanded and standard. It won 2 regionals in its short lifespan before tournaments kind of got shut down. So this is going into goated tier for me. I think this card opened up a lot of possibilities on how to play the game. Yes, the meta has changed in a way where the game does not operate around these cards anymore. But I think as a whole, this card was very, very strong in its lifetime, and because of that, I will give it the credit that it's due. Dragonite GX is going to be a tier Rogue. It's going to be a Rogue card, I think, because it was only played in Mewtwo and Rowegg Mewtwo, so it's going to go into Rogue tier. Now, this card is also going to be slightly controversial with Ultra Conversion Venom Shot. I'm going to look at the fact that Mewtwo plays it, every Mewtwo deck played it, and it was really strong because Mewtwo decks played it. And then I'm going to look at the fact that Xander won an open event based entirely on this card, so it's going into the GOAT tier. I said what I said. I think it's just insane. Just because of what the ability or the attack is something that was very, very powerful for what it was. And every deck played Dedenne, so it was like a free snipe no matter what you did. Venusaur, Snivy, Shining Vine, once during your turn, but once you're active, blah, blah, blah. This card was not good, but it was Rogue because Expanded Mewtwo could play it. That's where we're going to put it. Vileplume GX. Now, this card is pretty much guaranteed staple in any Mewtwo deck right now. Grass Mewtwo, whatever Mewtwo, but this card is not a deck on its own, so it's going to go into tier 2. Look at all the cards. This is going to come down to tier 2, actually. And this is going to come down to... No, this is going to stay in tier 1 for what it was. Yeah, I like this. This is fine. No, this is going to move up, actually. We're going to tier 1. We're going to tier 1 with this guy. Okay. And next up is Charizard Braixen. Now, this card is the epitome of a tier 2 card, where it was always really, really, really good because of the effect and stuff, but there's always been hand resetting stuff, so it never actually got to see any, real play. Volcarona is a card that I know pretty well because I tested it a good bit. It was never actually really strong, but I would put this into a I'm actually just putting that into trash, dude. It was just never good, honestly. I was hoping this card would be good. It just never was. Blastoise and Piplup. Now, this card actually saw a little bit of play with Keldeo. And I don't know. It's not the worst in the world. So I think it's reasonably a tier 2 card. Just because of what it brought to the table. Wishy-Washy is trash. And Solgaleo Lunala is Rogue, I think, is the verdict here. How many more? Holy shit, we have so many left, dude. What the... There's so many cards. What the hell? Oricorio. Dance of Tribute. Very strong card. I think this has to go to tier 1 just because of what it brings. It's not like Jirachi, where it doesn't swing the entire game by itself. Flygon is trash, I believe. Alolan Persian is Rogue. And I'm going to put Jigglypuff, or whatever into the trash can. Now, I kind of sped run us to this card, which is probably the GOATest of the GOAT. The bane of everyone's existence. The card that nobody wanted to see every time they sat across the table. Arceus and Dialga Gx. This card is the GOAT of the GOAT cards. It's one of the probably strongest, scariest, absolute maniacal monsters of cards that has existed. Yes. Reshiram and Zekrom. This card is garbage, unfortunately. I was hoping it'd be really good, but alas. Naganadel and Guzzlord with Violent Appetite, Jet Pierce, and Chaotic Order was a deck all on its own. It did really well perform, and I think that warrants it a spot in Rogue, because it did not see longevity after that point. Now, we have Megalopunny with Jumping Balloon and Smashing Puffy Smashers. This card, I think, is tier 2 for sure. It was really good for the little bit that it was, like, for the little bit where everyone played GXs, and when VMAXs came out, the meta kind of shifted in the point where the card became worse. Solgaleo Gx was played in a couple decks, and it's going to be played again now. So I think it's going to go into a tier 2 slotting, just because of what it did. Yeah. So now we're back to some of the... I love how this is like bouncing around in like a very weird way. So we're back to Turtonator, which I think is a tier 1 card. It really gave Volcanion an extra edge where it needed it, and it also put a lot of pressure onto cards at the Worlds format. Alolan Ninetales is the same way. I think it was not a insane deck as a standalone, but upon release, it really gave Decidueye decks a boost, especially in searching because of Beacon on the baby. And Ice Path and Ice Edge were really easy to use, and you never actually wanted to use Blizzard Edge with a deck like this because you don't play water energies. So Wishiwashi GX and Vikavolt were both just really bad cards. I remember those specifically going into the trash can pile. Now, Tappable Gx. Let's open this bad boy up. With Arrow Trail and Tapu Thunder GX, basically was like a gigantic punish card. So instead of tier 1, this is going to go into my go-to tier list, because I just think that the card had insane punish potential, and it did what it had to do every game, like very, very reliably. Now, Toxapex, Trash Can, Tapu Lele, absolutely goated. This card, where did it go? Now, this card was played in pretty much every deck, and you had to play Tapu Lele, 2 to 3 Tapu Lele. It basically became an attacker of its own, even though it didn't do that much damage, so Tapu Lele goes into the goated tier. Lycanrock Gx with Bloodthirsty Eyes was one of the most powerful cards that has ever existed in the trading card game. In my opinion, Lycanrock Gx is one of the best cards to ever exist in the trading card game. With Bloodthirsty Eyes, Claw Slash, and Dangerous Rogue, it's 3 amazing attacks with double color energy existing in the same format as it. So, you know, yeah, there was almost every deck played Lycanrock because of how strong it was. And I think it really gave life to a lot of stuff. Metagross goes into tier 1, I think. Where did I put Metagross? Where did it go? There it is. Because for its entire lifetime, Metagross was really, really strong. And until, like, even rotation, Metagross could be played. Geotech system was really strong. Giga Hammer and Algorithm were both really strong as well. You basically just pulled off an Algorithm in the middle of the game, and your opponents had to either NU that turn, or if they didn't NU, you just kind of ran away with the game. Sylveon GX is going to go into a tier 1 as well, just because of how good it was during its time period and its lifetime. Como is going to go to the trash tier. Now, Drampa GX is going to go into the GOAT tier, just because Drampa GX was just insanely amazing for what it was during its time. Righteous Edge, Berserk, Big Wheel, all were amazing cards. It was splashable in pretty much every deck, and a lot of decks through 2018 really did play this card. I played it myself. Yeah, Glossopod is also going to go into the GOAT tier. I'm going to... Yeah, GOAT tier. Yeah. Glossopod was a simple deck. Glossopod did not need to do much. Glossopod just needed to get an energy and attack pretty much every turn. And Glossopod immediately came into the World Championships and made a first impression. And it pretty much didn't phase out of the format until it got rotated out. It was a really good pairing for Zoroark. It was a really easy deck to play. Glossopod Garb was an amazing deck that Azul piloted to a second place regional finish. Glossopod was the check for Lycanrock for almost the entirety of its format. Yeah. This Charizard GX was not good. Trash. The Ho-Oh GX, however, I believe was a tier 2 card, just because of what it could do with the 4 energies in that particular format. Salazzle was a rogue card for sure. And then this Tapu Fini was tier 2 as well, just because even though it was good-ish, it was splashable in a lot of stuff. So next up is Necrozma. Necrozma was really, really strong for the 1 regionals that everybody played it because of Black Gray. But besides that, it wasn't really that impactful. That one expanded regionals, but it was just only good and expanded. So I'm going to put that into tier 2. Machamp Gx is trash. Now Marshadow Gx is a really splashable card, and that's going to go into tier 1 just because of what it was splashable in, and like it was a answer to Pikarom, a soft counter answer to Pikarom, and a lot of decks. Muk Gx was trash. Now Darkrai Gx is tier 1 because of restoration and the fact that it got splashed into pretty much every Dark Box deck under the sun. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you were playing Dark Box or any Dark variant, Darkrai Gx made its way into your deck if it was legal. Now Gardevoir Gx had Secret Spring, Infinite Force, and Twilight. This is also probably one of the strongest Stage 2s ever printed. It's going into the GOATed tier, just because it immediately also won a World Championships upon its release. Noivern was I think this deck was a rogue deck, for sure. Gyarados is bad. This is bad. Nihilego was tier 2, simply because of what it offered for the game. It wasn't that much. Guzzlord is bad. Kartana was rogue. I'm avoiding talking about Buzzwole because I don't want to. It brings back bad memories. It brings back traumatizing memories. It brings back so much pain. It brings back so much pain. But let's talk about it, I guess. Buzzwole GX is probably another one of those GOATed to the GOAT cards. It not probably. It is. It is literally one of the best cards to ever exist. It dominated the format. It dominated multiple formats. It was the best deck in format for a while, by far. That's all I really have to say. It just did everything it needed to do and more, and it was really annoying for everyone involved. Every party involved just hated it, except for people who were winning. Solgaleo Gx with Gyro Unit, Turbo Drive. I'm going to put this into tier 2 because it did make it really deep into ICs on its release, but then it started falling off the format. Leafeon was trash, unfortunately. Glaceon was a tier 2 deck, I believe. It was never like a tier 1 deck by any means, but because of Freezing Gaze and just being able to like take some time to just Frost Bullet and then eventually Polar Spear one big thing. And yeah, it was a tier 2 deck in its format and its time. Dawn Wings, I'm going to put into tier 1 because of the utility that it brought into the table. And he was a really, really good attacker in Malamar. This Solgaleo was a rogue card because you could play it in I could put it in tier 1. Because you could play this in Metagross, you could play it in or tier 2. You could play it in some other decks. So it was just like a really splashable card. What does Palkia do? Zero Advantage is cute. It was a rogue card for expanded. Absolutely. There's Greninja again. Shuriken Flurry, Haze Slash, Shadow Hunter. This card was pretty doo-doo garbage. Now, Stinger is going to go into tier 1 just because multiple archetypes were built around it, and it did win an international championship immediately. And for those of you who don't know what Stinger is, I should probably explain because it might be a little bit old. Both players shuffle their prize cards into their decks, then each player put the top 3 cards that face down prize cards. So, really strong. Really strong, and Xander won the Open with it, and multiple decks were predicated around the Stinger concept, and that was like the secret tech, I guess. Zygarde was never actually good, unfortunately, so I'm going to put that in the trash. This Yveltal goes into Rogue. Yeah, not because it's not of a deck of its own, just because of how little it actually accomplished for what decks were trying to do. And I'm going to put Dialga GX into tier 2 because it had Shred and Timeless, and any deck that could utilize Metal Energy would utilize it super well, and I played a deck that used Metal Energy, so I'm putting that into tier 2. That's my opinion. I'm the king here. Welcome to my castle. We're almost at the end, guys. Xerneas was pretty booty cheeks. Ultra Necrozma was tier 2 because even though Ultra Necrozma was like a really, really strong concept, it was never better than straight Malamar. And we proved that immediately at the first event with Malamar being in the format. And myself and Sam Chen got first and second with almost a similar 60-card list, 59 cards of the same. So we basically just like absolutely dominated the event. And everyone thought Ultra Necrozma was really, really good. And that kind of got phased out instantly, unfortunately, for that card. Shiftry is garbage. Blaziken's garbage. Articuno was a tier 2 card because it literally made stall decks built around it. Let's pull up Articuno for you guys. It had Legendary Ascent, so you just come into play. If there's a water on your board, you just bring it up, Cold Crush, and then all of a sudden your lock is established in the way you want it to be established. Electrode and Mime are both trash, and so is Palisand. Let's put Eradicate into Rogue, because it did have a couple decks. Scizor is unfortunately trash. Stack Attack is unfortunately trash. Now, Banette, I kind of skipped over for a second because I wanted to think about how I wanted to do it. Banette had Shady Move, Shadow Chant, and Tomb Hunt. This card, I'm going to put into Tier 1 because it did make a splash at the World Championships in my hands, as well as in Buzzgarb mirror matches where the Szymanski brothers played it to both the top 16 finishes, I believe. And the card was just insane in dealing with the mirror. And it was played a little bit after as well by my group specifically. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Rayquaza Gx, I think this is going to go into Go to tier. I think Rayquaza Gx, despite everything, is going to go to tier because with Stormy Winds, Dragon Break, and Tempest, this card basically self-accelerated to itself. It was one of the most insane, aggressive cards to exist. It won Hosea Regionals on like the last leg of its life. It also took Pedro Eugenio Torres to a top 4 finish, winning matches he shouldn't win, etc., etc. Really insane. Shuckle, tier 2. If you show me the Shuckle, I'm gonna scoop. There was an entire meta where like it was like, show me Shuckle, I'll scoop. Like that happened. Sceptile's trash, honestly. Verzian is going to be a rogue because there were some decks that were built around it. Now, this is going to be slightly controversial. Maybe it's not controversial. Maybe it doesn't belong in the same tier as all these other cards. But I think it belongs in the same tier as all these other cards. Is he still on this list? Where am I? Where'd I go? Magcargo. Probably tier 1, actually. But Lava Flow, Burning Magma. This card was insane. It's literally made so many decks really, really strong. And it kind of came out of the woodworks. It's going into S tier for me. Go tier for me. It's just insane. Blacephalon also is, unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, going to go into the GOAT tier because from the moment it was released, it really, really became one of the strongest cards to be paired with Welder. Burst GX, Bursting, like all these attacks are just insane. Beast String was also in the format to kind of help it get where it needed to be. Yeah, so I just can't stress enough how good that card was. Suicune, Poo-Poo, PP. Zoroark, actually GOAT tier as well. Zoroark was insane until the date rotated. Zoroark, I mean. Just because of how much utility it gave. Sigilyph was not good. Tyranitar was not good. Genesect was not good. This Alolan Ninetales was tier 2. I was hoping this Alolan Ninetales would be a lot better. Tier 2. Tier 1. Just because it was able to search cards out for you. I guess some decks predicated their entire deck around Mysterious Guidance in that format. So it was pretty strong, actually. But those decks didn't really do well. This card was not good. Lugia was okay. It was teched into stuff, so tier 2. Celosaur is going to go into tier 2 for me as well. Pikachu, tier 1. S tier. S tier, S tier, S tier, S tier. Pikachu, literally, from the moment it was released to the moment it will rotate, will be one of the best cards ever. And it has been played since the day it got released, till the day it will rotate. And that's literally why it's insane. Like, it's just, yeah, that's there. Gengar, Mimikyu, SR1 tier 1, just because this card has so much utility with Poltergeist, Horror House. It does a lot. It does a lot where it needs to be. Mime goes here. This Accelerock is like tier 2. Or Rogue, I mean. Hoopa is Rogue as well. Cobalion is tier 2 because you get the Iron Roll ability. Incineroar, I think, is tier 1. Just because Incineroar is a card that makes Mewtwo really, really, really strong. It can be splashed into anything. Latios was trash. And Eevee Snorlax was tier 1 in its format because it dealt with Zoroark really, really, really well. So that's the list. That's what I have, I guess, sorted out. Some of these might be like moved around a little bit and biases might be involved, obviously. Some of these tier 1 cards obviously don't stack up to other tier 1 cards, like the GOAT cards to tier 1. So maybe like this goes down into here, even because it's not actually that tier 1 compared to some of these other cards up in this tier. Yeah, this probably comes down to also, honestly, from the GOAT tier. But everything else in the tiers seemed pretty accurate to me. I really like how these are laid out. Tier 2 were like decks that were a little bit better than Rogue, but not good enough to stand up to tier 1 decks by any means. Tier 1 was all these like support cards. These insane cards that like really did what they needed to do well, but GOAT cards were just like the entirety of like the archetypes that were based around. So if you guys enjoyed this kind of style of video, I had a lot of fun doing this. This took me like a fucking fat hour and it's going to be taking me a little bit of time to edit, but if you guys enjoyed this kind of content, let me know in the comments below. I would love to do more of this kind of stuff. This is a fun video for me. It's a fun video for you guys, hopefully. And we'll resume with our competitive content. If it's not something you want to see, maybe I can throw it as a 4th upload on the weekend maybe. But it doesn't have to be a necessity. It can be cut entirely from the video. So just let me know in the comments below. But thank you guys for watching. And until next time, peace out.